getting that promotion is really important for you, don't try to wing it. Prepare for it, practice it. But when stuff is backed by information, confidence naturally shows up. When the CEO is coming down and you want to meet, like India at least, the women are raised with the
Tell me how you would give like that practical advice. Someone who's very open of what I expect.
taking the accountability, like
A lot of people are not able to even talk about it.
and being very intentional about it is important, right? You want to be prepared.
It's almost, you feel like you're asking for a favor, right?
The time when I have to go and give it my 100%, and then let's see how it goes and what difference I can make. Let's say if it's a very junior level, mostly it's going to be the direct manager who's going to decide. 28.8% women responded saying that they find it hard when it comes to negotiation on salary or promotion.
Hello everyone. Today, welcome to another episode of Decoding with Jaslin. Today, I have here with me Amrita Mukherjee. She is a seasoned tech executive, a communications and career coach. She is also a speaker and an author, and she's currently dedicated her life to helping women sort of master their skills and amplify their voices. She worked in many MNCs like Goldman Sachs and Wells Fargo, and she's now the founder of Thriving Women's Tribe, and also known as Chivolution. And she is now fully working to basically help women empower themselves. So, with that, welcome Amrita to this podcast, and we're really excited to sort of get to know your journey and sort of get to know all the things that you have learned in this journey of yours. So, before I sort of get started, right? When you just before you started Thriving Tribe community, you were working as the technology director and senior vice president at Wells Fargo, right? That seems like quite a fancy job, right? What sort of made you what made you quit it and decided that, okay, I'm going to dedicate my life to this?
First of all, Jaslin, thanks for having me. I'm really happy and excited to share my journey and learning while we have a conversation here. Um, so, yes, title, responsibility, all of that were great. But in my reflective moments, I realized that I have been really fortunate throughout my career journey to have some awesome mentors and sponsors who have been very vocal about me and who have been very honest with me, and which helped me reflect and retrospect and take some calculated risks, which helped me grow in my career. But me being a mentor to many of my mentees across the globe, I realize a lot of them do not really have access to the right mentors at the right point in time in their career, and which slows them down. And even when they know someone, they don't really know how to leverage that relationship. So I was doing a little bit of this unofficially, I would say, but then I thought, like, if I really want to make big impact, then I must do this full time. And that was the moment when I said, this is it. This is the time when I have to go and give it my 100%, and then let's see how it goes and what difference I can make.
Understood. So, what like why did you feel dissatisfied with what you were doing unofficially, and like was there a gap which you felt like, okay, I'm not able to do this, so this is why I want to quit and do this full time?
Yeah, no, so I wasn't dissatisfied not at all, right? I think I was very happy with what I was doing, but I just felt that's not enough. There more
Understood.
that had to be done. And the kind of reach, the kind of connection that I wanted to make, the kind of impact that I wanted to generate, it wasn't possible while doing a full-time job and managing organizations such big. So that's why I thought, like, I have to take a step back and rethink this whole effort and see how I can organized and more structured about it.
Understood. So when you started doing this, were you doing this from the beginning of your career, or like did something trigger this in you, or were you always like this growing up?
No, not really. In fact, I didn't really know the value of a mentor until I had some, right? And in fact, I was very hesitant when I got my first mentor, and I didn't know how to learn from them, how to best leverage those relationships. But as I had those interactions and I could see in myself how much difference it made for me, who I was and what like the person I have become, the journey. And when I reflected on that, and I felt that, okay, that is like immensely powerful. And it should not be a game of luck, right? For some women, they just, happen to know somebody who helps out, and that's great. But what if others also had that access? Like, think about the amount of growth that we'll be able to see with the right kind of support system.
That's great, Amrita. That and it's really good. I think that was one of the reasons that, in fact, we spoke. Right, I was really inspired by what you were doing. As a woman myself in the tech industry, I can very well see the gap. Right, especially as you grow in the industry, the gap just seems to widen and widen. I was reading a
Exactly.
report recently about women in workplace, right, and the statistics in the last 10 years, while they have grown a lot, right? I was saying like 10 years back, it was 15% versus 85% of women. It's now 30 versus 70, but it's still quite a lot of difference. So it's really, really, really empowering and inspiring to see women like you do this for the community. That's really, I mean, like I said, I really look up to you for that.
Thank you.
Getting into like the further intricacies, right? Um, you've been in this industry, being a woman yourself, and now you're coaching other women, right? What would you say, if you had to pick, would be like the three most prominent um, challenges or barriers that women face, in any industry for that?
Sure. Yeah, so there are quite a few, as we
I'm
all
sure. Yeah.
know. But the one thing that I very frequently hear from my mentees or uh, my coaching clients, they'd be like, um, I'm not growing. Like, I feel stuck at one point in my career. And I am trusted for execution, but I'm not trusted for decision making. So
Okay.
when it comes to decision making roles or leadership roles, they feel that they are not getting ample opportunities. And like, obviously, I personally felt that there are different type of barriers for different women for
Yeah.
that. But when it comes to one unique reason that resonates with many, that comes to executive presence, right? How you own your statements, how you show up, right? How much
Right.
accountability that you take makes a huge difference. Instead of just saying, I was thinking and I was suggesting, I was hoping, we tend to start our sentences like that. Instead, it's like,
Yeah.
this is what I would ask you to do because of these data points. That changes the whole, perception about the statement. So yeah, that's definitely one very common one.
Mm-hmm.
As I think more about it, so we did a survey earlier this year from Shivolution, and representation was there from multiple different industries like education, marketing, sales, technology, of course, and across the globe. And interestingly enough, right, 28.8% women responded saying that they find it hard when it comes to negotiation on salary or promotion.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was an interesting one, right? So they can have conversation around other things, but when it comes to communication related to promotion negotiation, they like just break into sweat. So once again, there are two aspects, the two broad aspects that I see. Number one is knowing their own worth, right? Just hearing some of the friends making some numbers or just looking at some data is sometimes not enough. We need to understand the exact value we are adding to the bottom line, right? What is our role in the table that we sit in? So being very, very clear about that, understanding that, and then carving out a language that they are comfortable with. Sometimes they're not comfortable saying that, okay, I won that promotion or I won that money, but they can always, try saying that, okay, eventually I want to get to the next level. What will it take to get there? What's the checklist if there is one? And putting some onus on their boss as well, right? He or she needs to give smart feedback and help them set smart goals so that they can get to the next level.
Right.
And third, I would say prioritization, right? Because many of them I see are juggling a lot of things, uh, family, work, commitment to communities, and other things. But important is to prioritize. Like if there is a promotion year for you, in that year, you might need to sacrifice few personal goals and few community goals. And important is after sacrificing, you should not feel guilty about it because many a times what happens, even if they're sacrificing, they're always carrying the guilt and that shows up in your demeanor. So, yeah, these three I would think are quite common.
Right. So if I take it back or I put it together, right? I believe first one you mentioned was executive presence, right? You said that's the biggest. The second one you mentioned was negotiating salaries or promotions, be it, and third one was prioritization, right? And from what I understood, correct me if I'm wrong, executive presence, you said can be like I would like to go deep into each of them into how they can be tackled, right? So for executive presence, right, um it is something, to be honest, sometimes even I feel like I struggle with, even though I do feel I have decision making power, but you know, I don't know, there's something in your head which is scared to make those decisions. You make them, right, but you might be a little skeptical if you're making the right decision, right? So I hear that you said a lot about for the same, like in terms of how you communicate and you know how and all of that. But what more would you say, right? Like because I think because even to say that this is what I think, it needs to come from a space of a lot more confidence, I feel. So are there, like, how do you tackle that, right? For this particular challenge, if I go into it.
Sure. See, I have seen two things that have been immensely helpful for myself and also for my mentees is number one is gather data. That data that supports your decision, right? When you speak with the confidence of data, then naturally it shows up. It's not just you're making a random statement. Like um, this, I think I would like to suggest those are sometimes, not backed by information. But when stuff is backed by information, confidence naturally shows up. And second
Right.
thing is definitely practice, right? If there is something important, like when the CEO is coming down and you want to meet, like you want to be prepared, even if you bump into that person in the elevator, you should have your elevator pitch ready. You know, sometimes we
Right.
think that, okay, I am at this level, CEO is here. Why would she talk to me or he talk to me? Well, it doesn't matter. Be prepared, right? So and that those small things adds up. And even
Mm-hmm.
if you don't end up talking to the CEO, but maybe to the regional head, you can use the same pitch, and that helps
Right.
out. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So, sorry, were you completing? Okay,
yeah,
no.
yeah, I'm good.
So from what I understand, right, I think data, in terms of course, improving the way you speak with confidence, but probably backing it with data, right? I think that would
Absolutely.
help. And be practice, right? And third is being prepared. So for everyone who's watching and who is struggling with this sort of putting yourself out together. And even I do this a lot of I things I suggest and all of that, just coming across more confidently. These are probably the three things you can inculcate in your day-to-day work life. So that's I think that's really great, right? Even I think I can relate to it because it's very easy to sort of implement, right? Especially the data point. Moving on to the second thing that you said, negotiating for salary or promotion. I'm laughing because um, I would like to believe I'm someone who's very open of what I expect, but there is still that it's almost you feel like you're asking for a favor, right? I don't know if
Mhm.
everyone feels like that, but I sort of feel like that sometimes. And but I also know that at least I'm able to speak up about it. But I know that a lot of people are not able to even talk about it, right?
Mhm.
Even yesterday, I was having a conversation with one of my juniors for the year end review, and she asked me at some point when it was ending that is this also the time when I discuss increment or is that like a different thing? And before even saying that, she's like, I don't know how to do this. I could feel like she was a bit struggling. So how would you again like break that down for me? Like how would you go again with salary and promotion discussions? Taking back from your previous, I'm going to assume data is probably going to be like another key point here. But yeah,
Absolutely.
tell me how you would give like that practical advice. Do you have a word-to-word pitch that you talk about?
Yeah, it's obviously it's kind of different between salary and promotion because promotion
Right,
is a longer process, right? You have to be target like based on at what level you are, you might need to prepare for a year, 2 year, 3 year for that matter, right? For a promotion, and being very intentional about it is important, right? And being intentional, making taking the accountability, like if it's a your boss is the only decision maker or are there multiple decision makers, know that, right? Based, so let's say if it's a very junior level, mostly it's going to be the direct manager who's going to decide. But if
right,
someone is becoming, let's say, a VP, then mostly there will be other decision makers too. How to make
right.
sure that you know the decision makers and you can positively influence their decision upfront. Or if you talk about getting up to the director level, then the decision makers are not even in the country. Maybe sometime they are in other locations also. So knowing the stakeholders is very important. So that's the first thing that I would say. Second is once you have known them individually, that automatically gives you some confidence to go and have that conversation that, yes, I have had these conversation. That's why I'm with talking to you. Sit down with your boss and say, this is what the timeline I'm looking at. These are the things I'm looking to achieve. Do you think there is anything missing? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to touch on this point of favor that you talked about, right? Because I have felt that, and I think that's a little bit of gender specific, I would say. And the reason is mostly, right? I mean, I don't want to say all
Mm-hmm.
generalize, but mostly in India, at least, the women are raised with the mindset of don't ask for more, use what you have to the best you can, right? Always asking for more is not nice, right? So that's like kind of ingrained in our gene when we are even little girl. So that goes on through the day, and even while in family life, you know what, we already have this, let's not ask for more. So that comes when we are having a salary negotiation as well, right? So instead of trying to say that I want an increment, first ask we need to ask ourselves that why I'm worth that increment, reasoning that out in our own head, right? This is the impact that I'm making. I'm running this XYZ project which is making so and so save or so and so revenue or so and so efficiency gain, and hence I feel I should be compensated accordingly. So that's where you mentioned already that data will come, right? Once you are preparing your pitch using these aspects like reasoning, why I am the person who should be paid better or should be getting a particular role, and then making sure we understand the decision makers are also on the same page and understanding their expectations from me, and then preparing the pitch. That will, help build the confidence that you need when you are having the conversation. And again, if you need to stand in front of the mirror, practice, right? Okay, think the box is there, having a conversation, what works. I mean, I remember having a conversation with Shabana Azmi. She was giving a speech in Goldman Sachs office, and I happened to be in the organizing committee, so I met her backstage. And she was reading out loud her speech, and we were very curious. We looked at her and we felt like, oh my gosh, she's like such an accomplished actress. She might be just going and talking. She says, I've been practicing for 11 days. We were like, seriously? And then she said, yes, I practice every time. And that was like maybe 10, 12 years ago, I'm telling you. And that moment had a really big impact in my life, I would say. Those like 30, 40 seconds of conversation I might have had with her. Doesn't matter where you are at life, how much you have accomplished, the importance and practice never goes away. So if getting that promotion is really important for you, don't try to wing it. Prepare for it, practice it, then get into it.
That, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And even I'm like really surprised that someone like Shabana Azmi is practicing a speech for 11 days. Probably that's why she is at that level, right? That's really helpful. So I think I'll just summarize it, right, for the audience as well. So when you go in for negotiating and a promotion or a salary, right, first you said is being intentional about it, right? Know the people who are going to be your decision makers, align with them on your goal and what is required to achieve that. Second, you mentioned is once you have that, then you start working towards it, and then you use the data of whatever work you have done as the reasoning of this is what I have done, and this is why I believe I'm worthy of this salary or this promotion. And third, I think, we mentioned it earlier as well, is practice if required. Speak to a friend, speak in the mirror, and, sort of have someone play out your devil's advocate if required, and sort of
Yeah,
get,
absolutely.
that makes a lot of sense. I'll try to use that for my negotiations as well in the
All the best.
future. Thank you. The third thing you spoke about, and this is something even I had in my list of things I want to talk about. You spoke about prioritization, right? Um, I don't know. And this I feel might be like a gender thing more. I'm not saying men don't have to prioritize, but I think because of the way society functions, I think it's a little bit easier for them to sort of do that prioritization because it's accepted more, I might say, right? Um, so how do you like help women do that, right? What would be some practical tips to do that prioritization? Because and like because one of the things you mentioned was about guilt, right? And it is something very true. Like even to give my example, I have a kid, and we decided this and after we decided this, basically this podcast, she's joining a school and they have sort of like an open house for parents today. And in my head I thought like, should I, but I knew that this was my priority at this point, so I took this decision. And by God's grace, I have a very supportive partner. So he was like, don't worry about it, I'll take her, we'll attend the open house and come back, right? So I have done all the things, but there is a part of me which is feeling like, more from the kids perspective, oh my God, am I going to be one of those parents who's not there for the kid because I'm not there, right? But I know it's a conscious choice we made. So how do you help women navigate that, both from prioritization and also like the guilt perspective of it? Is it just getting used to the guilt? I don't know.
No, it's shaking it off, right? Guilt can, like, always lurk inside and bother you. And it's not easy. I agree with you. I have been in this like multiple times, like at multiple phases of my career during my first kid, second kid, when they're small, and so on and so forth. So, the first thing about prioritization, I feel, is we need to look at it in three ways, right? Is it important today? Is it important in a week's time? Or is it important in the next 6 months? So whenever you have a list, look at it in a time frame perspective. And then you have a very clear vision on what needs to be done today and what can be pushed. Because I used to feel when I have 10 things in the list, I must cross all 10. And I used to beat myself up for not doing that. But when I started looking at it from a impact, right? Okay, what if I don't do it today and do it a week later? What's the impact? That gave me the clarity, you know what? Makes no difference. So why do I push myself to do it today, right? So time frame is one aspect. Second is impact, right? Look at it from what if. So you talked about you not being there for your daughter at the school, right? Well, obviously she's going to be super happy if you are around, but maybe this is something you can make up for with an ice cream party or something else, right? Versus if it's a doctor's appointment, there's no question that's the top priority, right?
Yeah.
And giving up a doctor's appointment for doing a presentation in office will definitely give us a guilt. So understanding that difference and the impact of being there or not being there for something is going to give you that clarity when you prioritize. And as far as managing the guilt is concerned, is first is accepting it. I think many do even hesitate to accept. And sometimes just going and talking to the individuals who expected you to be there eases it out, right? So I have missed so many things for my son, and I would just go and talk to him, sit down with him afterwards and say, you know what, this is the reason why I couldn't be there. I feel bad. Is there something? Can you tell me about it, right? And you would not believe that they get more excited to spend those dedicated 30 minutes with you when they are explaining what actually happened instead of just seeing your face in the audience. So, understanding the expectation from other people's perspective also helps us shake off that guilt, right? You know what? It's okay, right? It was not really a big deal. Yeah, I understand you couldn't be there, but now you're here, and that's more important. So, and you're right? It is different for different relationships. Obviously, your parents will have some expectation from you, kids will have a different. Um, and if you are trying to get something done, you have to be ruthless about prioritizing your time. And uh, sometimes setting that expectation upfront also help out, right? I tell my mom, like, this getting this book out is my topmost priority right now. I can't do anything else. If you need me to attend a family function, I'm not attending, right? And now that she knows, she would not really, give me any hard time for that, and I don't feel any pressure either. So it's a combination of things, I would say.
But I think that's a very cool way that you explained, right? The timeline thing, right? I've often heard this for conflict management, especially within families and things like that, or within a marriage, that, if it doesn't bother you in 5 years, it's not worth the effort, right? But I think this is a different perspective to look at it. And yeah, you are right. When you look at it from a timeline perspective, it does not, yeah, you can actually get rid of the guilt without feeling guilty and sort of navigating it in a better way, right? So yeah, I mean, that's also a very practical advice. Thank you for that. Now, you mentioned about your book, right? um so uh can you, like, I know you wrote a book called Avani, the girl who found her voice, right? Can you talk about it? And I believe you're also writing another book. Why should I buy it? Why should anyone buy it? What is in that?
Sure. See, Avani's journey is about resilience.
Mm-hmm.
So she meets with an accident. And she had a thriving career. She was a middle-aged woman in her 40, and she loses her voice and she loses her career. She loses pretty much her life over that accident. So that was a choice she had to make at that point, is like, what do I do? Give up on my life, or I really find something that still gives me the rest of my life, makes the rest of my life worth living and looking forward to. And I personally feel that resilience in today's world is not an optional skill. It's a must have. If we want a long and sustainable career, a long and sustainable, happy career, then we must exercise resilience from all aspects, because there will be failures. There is nothing where we won't fail. And how do we choose to react when we fail? What are the ways to look at the failure, how to learn from it and move forward? So that's the journey about in my book that is already published. And I personally feel whoever read it, from their feedback also, is that they find themselves there. And I think that's the best moment for me as an author. They find a piece of themselves as they read the book. Relating to the character and finding inspiration from her journey and being able to take that up in their own lives, that's what I would hope for the readers as they pick up the book. Coming to the next one that's going to get published next month, it's about two different women. One is an American expat living in India, and an Indian housewife. So they bump into each other accidentally, and how they find similarities and differences, and how they learn from each other to become a better version of themselves. So that's a different way I wanted to look at, again, women's journey, what they do, and the dilemma between personal and professional choices, career, and growth. And what's the definition of success, right? Defining your own success criteria and living a life of purpose. That's what I kind of talk about in the book that's coming up.
That's really nice, Amrita. Has the name been decided, or you're gonna you're
It is
still
just it is decided because it's went for printing. So yes, it's
okay?
decided.
All
It is
right.
decided. The launch is coming up in May. We are going to be there in Bombay for the launch of the book.
Looking forward to it, Amrita. I think one of the things that I wanted to address is imposter syndrome, right? I don't think this is specific to women. I think probably everyone who grows in their career feels that, is what I would like to assume. But I'm sure women feel it a lot more, right? I think taking back from your from what you said before about executive presence, there is a little bit of overlap there, I would assume. Um, but I think it's also, I don't know, at least I feel, because even I feel sometimes that I struggle with it. Um, I don't know how do you mentally fix it, right? On the outside, I know many people have told me that you come across confident. Like, I don't think generally people would assume that I doubt myself, but I think that pretty much everyone does, right? So, and there is this almost this feeling of getting caught, and people will realize all this is a facade, right? How do you actually navigate that?
Absolutely. Yeah, and you are spot on. It is a very pressing issue for women. And you are right. Women face it way more than men. If I think about the stats, I think 75% of women has typically responded experiencing imposter syndrome in one or other part of their career, which is a huge number, right? Yeah, so definitely it's something that's more common in women than men. So the two aspects that you talked about, what is internal, right? How do we be comfortable with
Right.
it, and how do we tackle it from the outside? So recently I attended a conference on the topic of gender power and technology. there is a lot of, and COVID kind of aggravated this network present, right? Where you are present more in the cyberspace. And there is a lot of people who are not their authentic self in that space. And there is a pressure of being ideal, being perfect, which is
Right.
actually aggravating the imposter syndrome even more, we like it or not like. So there was a lot of data that we discussed in that conference. But not going into the specifics of the data, what I'd say is being unapologetically authentic. This is what I am. This is who I am. This is what I wear. This is how I look, you know? Um, it's easier said than done, right? When you feel that, okay, am I looking, maybe they're looking at me because I have ketchup on my face, right? That's a typical reaction that we get. So it does take time. That's what I would say. Um, Second thing is, I don't call it only imposter syndrome. I call it like a perfection syndrome. And it's a little more for women. Like we want to make sure everything is perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there is a role that's open in my company, and let's say there needs to be work done with AI and whatnot, and I feel, I would love that job, but well, do I have the certification? Do I have the credentials? We get into too much of those questions. So what when I talk to my clients, what I say that, would you like to learn as you go? So instead of saying that, I'm ready, give me that job, we can always say, I would love to do that. And I know I'm not ready, but I will learn in the process. And this is another interesting skill to have. We cannot possibly know everything, but we must know how to figure out. And experiences typically teach us that when you are thrown into something, go figure. Yeah, you learn more of that, and I have been lucky to have that early on in my career. But that's what I typically recommend, that go for it even if you are not 100% sure. Raise your hand, take it up, feel a little uncomfortable for a period of time, and eventually you will become confident about it. And when you are being there in your authentic self, the clothes you are most comfortable in, the hair, the way you kind of keep it. So that's why I love some of the speakers who would not really do a big hairdo or, nice dress or something. You just go up in their pair of jeans and sneakers and speak, right? I think that gives them confidence. So we all need to know in which way we feel confident and be comfortable being like that.
I think that's very well put, right? Um, when you spoke about those roles and being ready for those roles, I was recently reading something where it said the same thing, that women actually apply for less number of jobs if they don't fit in like all the criteria, right? While men are more like, okay, I would like to do this, it's fine if I fit in only half, right? And even when I was talking to another friend of mine who is a senior HR in a firm, and she told me the same thing, that yes, we actually see it even in applications, that women will only apply if they have, if they match 95 or 100% of that, right? While men will be anywhere upwards of 50, they're like, let's give it a shot. So that's, you are right. It should be more from the ability to be able to pick up and the right attitude, right? You also spoke about being your authentic self. I think, like you said, it's something I truly believe in, and I think it's a journey for everyone as well, right? Um, and I think what you said again was very spot on, right? It takes time, but even I feel like, and I've felt that as well, right? Like you should do what feels true to you, right? And I think as women, we face something like this often, both in work and personal, where you are wondering if you need to sort of fake it to fit the mold,
Yeah.
right? Uh, but I think you are right. Like, I think being authentic to yourself is almost the easiest for yourself. Like, once you start doing that, whether it is the way you speak, whether it is the views you have, whether it is what you wear. And sometimes I say this to myself, right? Like, when I see others, I have met all kinds of people, and I'm not sitting here and judging them all day. Then why am I so scared that 100 people are going to be sitting there and judging them? Like, I am letting all kinds of people live their lives. Not everyone is perfect. I'm not going and, you know, telling them on their face why you do this, why you that. Then, why do I think the same is going to happen to me when I'm just being myself? And I'm 100% sure there are other women who also feel that, so I think you are right. Even I feel I'm on that journey of being my authentic self. I try to imbibe that, but that's really, really well put on. Like, even about what, like, I think what I resonated most was about the clothes you wear, because I often like try to wear something because I feel like, and I still do that sometimes because I feel like certain colors may make me come across. And I don't know, maybe for women it's a bit more, I think, right? Because in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm going for an important meeting. I don't want to wear like a pink or a yellow because, you don't want to come across too girly or too, like, you want people to think of you a certain way. So there are times when I would like change what I'm wearing only so that people take me seriously, or I'm portrayed a certain way. But that's like, I think, like you said, I can see a lot of women, especially in India, in leadership, going through that journey of completely accepting themselves. And I think that's, like you said, a really cool thing for all women to sort of implement into their lives. I think the next thing that I sort of wanted to talk about was, in the industry, right? We see a lot of focus on diversity and inclusion and things like that, right? Um, at the corporate level, right? Not at an individual level. What are the challenges that you feel uh, are probably, like, that women are facing, or are more sort of towards women at like an organization level that you feel?
See, I mean, this is a little hard one because at the end of the day, it's the same set of people which who we live in the
Correct.
society are the people who are there in the corporations also, and many a times unknowingly they carry a bias from their home to the workplace, even if the corporation has established, the company has established certain rules or certain standards. Unknowingly, that comes out from the
Right.
leaders, um, and that makes it hard for the women, right? At one way, let's say I'll talk about, like, obviously, without getting into specific, there is a very senior person, and he's a champion of diversity. He's amazing to work with, and he'd always make sure that irrespective of like a gender or any kind of bias, the right person gets the right role, and we all loved him for that. But I remember he walked into the stage and we were having a like a panel conversation, and in a light moment he just said that, okay, my wife was doing the shopping and I had to just be there to provide my card, and you know how women and shopping. Oh my God, that's it, right? I mean, that's one statement. And there were like 40 women sitting in the audience. We all looked at each other. It's like, what is he talking about, right? That's the very moment he generalized unknowingly. And these are damaging situations, I would say, that makes all the effort that he have been putting in, all those amazing effort, this kind of, pours water into that. So he, what I would say, the corp corporations, they have checklists, they have things that they recommend or they say that people should be doing. But unfortunately, the gender gap that we have and the challenges that we are facing, we can read hundreds of reports from McKinsey and World Economic Forum and whatnot. We would know that a checklist cannot solve that problem. And that solutionizing must start much before the corporation, right? It needs to start at a grassroots level from the kids going to the school, right? No differentiation. But having said that, the few things obviously the corporations can do, something like a very outcome driven, structured mentorship program, right? A lot of companies do mentorship, but it's not outcome driven. And what happens is like, okay, this person is doing very good, get her a mentor. Well, that's not sufficient, right? What do you want that person to achieve in a year's time or 2 years' time? And how exactly this mentor is going to be able to help with that? So a lot more thinking needs to go
Okay,
in
got it.
creating that structure. And second thing I would say is that we need to recognize more the male allies. Um, we say, yes, you are doing good or amazing. That's not sufficient. Again, I would say more the male allies needs to be considered for promotion because they are doing so good in diversity, right? Contribution to diversity goals should be treated as contribution to bottom line, and then
Got
people
it.
needs to be recognized like that, and that should give a lot of motivation for others that yes, if I do well, I would be also recognized for it.
Got it, Amrita. You spoke about mentorship, which is actually what I wanted to get in, right? Because I feel like mentorship, like you rightly said, is a word that is thrown around a lot in a lot of contexts. I often consider my own boss as my mentor because I do feel he's really taught me a lot, right? And I know that there are a lot of things I've picked up from him, and I look up to him for that a lot, right? Now, can you tell me, like, I you spoke about outcome driven mentorship. Break it down for me. What is actually a mentorship program, right? How does it work?
Sure. So first of all is I feel one mentor is not going to solve all our problems. So that's the first common mistake that we see people making is like, okay, I have a mentor. Well, great. For what? Right? Are you asking that mentor to help you with your technical goals, your communication, your visibility, your brand building? Um, what are you learning from that relationship? So being very, again, intentional and specific is necessary for both mentee and the mentor, right? Having that agreement is that I'm into this relationship. This is the outcome I'm looking to get from this relationship, right? So that's one. The second is getting multiple mentors. At one point, I remember in one point in my journey, I had 4 mentors, and a number of
Okay.
them were actually not from India. So, or not women for that matter, right? I have had a lot of male mentors also, and I have learned from all of them a lot. At times, your boss can be your mentor. I have to be another couple of my bosses who are really great mentor and coach, I would say, and I'm still kind of connected with them after all these years. But in most cases, that doesn't work because um, even at the subconscious level, the boss is thinking of his or her organization. So whatever suggestions they are going to give you is going to be not only for you, but for the organization's benefit. So mentor will look at you and only you, not for the organization or not for the company.
So you
So
guys do mentorship programs, right? Like, how do you do that? Do you do that like with different organizations? Is that and even you said you had 4, 5 mentors. How did you build that?
yeah, so it is it happens both organically and inorganically, right? So sometimes you just know someone, and mentorship, I also feel it's a little bit of a chemistry. It's like dating, right? You have to have that chemistry, and then only it's going to be work. And you have to be absolutely brutally honest, right? If I go to my mentor and he or she always tells me, oh, you're so nice, you are doing XYZ good, there's no benefit. I need real feedback, like where I can improve and how I can improve. So those are necessary. So from a Thriving Women's Tribe perspective, when someone is looking for a mentor, they come to us and they tell us what exactly they're looking for. Like, let's say some women is saying, okay, I want to relocate to a different country. I'm looking for someone in this industry, in this country who can help. And then from our tribe, we'll look at, okay, who's there? And we see that, okay, are you open to men take a mentee who's looking for these kind of thing? And there will be time bound, outcome driven mentorships, right? So it's very structured. And we don't give mentorship at an organization level right now. It's only individual. At org level, we only do workshops or coaching. We don't do mentoring.
Understood. So, like you said, right? Mentorship is a lot like dating, right? How do you know two things? How do you know what are you looking for in a mentor? Like that example that you gave is a very like specific goal, right? But if there is someone who is just wanting to grow in their career, right? That is their goal. How do they understand what should actually be like the outcome of their mentorship program? And how do they identify that this person could be a great mentor? Because sometimes you can be good friends, but could you really be their mentee? Like maybe you have great chemistry in terms of chatting with each other and you hit it off the moment you speak to each other. But how do you understand that this person is going to be like a good mentor? So yeah, two parts. Like how do you like make it outcome driven? Like if it is a bit generic that I want to grow in my career and that is why I'm looking for a mentor. And second, like how do you identify the right person or set of people for that?
So, when we say that we want to grow in the career, like any generic goal for that matter, first, the individual should sit down and try and understand what it means for me. Because whenever it's vague, it's not something you are going to achieve. And that's the reality, right? It's wishful thinking, it's not a goal. Right. So if you need to really turn that wishful thinking into a goal, we need to be very specific about it. Like, okay, what does growth mean? I want to get to XYZ level within 5 years' time, right? Or I want to make so and so money in my business, or I want to acquire like secure sales of so and so amount, right? Whatever that is, being very specific is important, right?
Okay.
So once either they can do that themselves, and if they think that they need help with that also, they can always go to a coach, right? Or a mentor. Like you can get business coaches, or you can get like, career coaches, and you can go see, I have done this for so and so years. I don't know what's next. I want to grow, but I'm not clear. So that's where coaches come in and they can help. But then once you know what you need, right? Let's say it's about getting to a certain level within a certain year, and you need to know the industry, like if you are in marketing or sales or technology, then you can look for, okay, who are the people who have done something similar. Another example I will give, right? Say at one point I had a mentor, and she's amazing, right? She's a wonderful woman. I so respect her for who she is. But it was a wrong choice for me, and I'll tell you why. Is she had a very long career, right? She has been working in the industry for like 35, 40 years now. And she has reached a certain level much later than I did. And because she thought that is okay and that is right for her. And her advice to me was always, it's okay, you don't need to rush. You will get there at some point. And that didn't work for me. For me, I felt that, I would decide what level when I want to get to. So that was me. So that's why I said it's like you need to be, at the same frequency level when you are choosing a mentor. So when you are selecting a mentor, look, I came out of the relationship. I said that, you know what, thank you for making time for me, but I don't think I would be benefiting the way I thought I would be benefiting from this relationship. I would love to stay connected, but not as a mentor mentee. And we are connected, by the way, right? We are still connected. We exchange notes every now, like, not frequently, but yeah. Uh, but the point is, and it is important, like if you are in a relationship which is not working for you, you have to learn to move on. You have to come out of it. And no one should feel the pressure of staying in the relationship. And that's why it is important to make it time bound also. Achieve a goal within a dedicated time. So, identify the industry, the experience, and somebody who has done what you are looking to do so that you can learn from their experience. Because mentorship is all about that, that someone who has done it, proved it, crossed all the hurdles and can give you real life experiences and advices which you can learn from. So yeah, these are the things I
Understood.
would say.
Got it. I that makes sense. I hope even I can start looking at mentorship that way, because at least I am someone who takes it in a very generic form, right? Like, okay, as long as they're helping you grow, like that you have learned more, that is. But I think a lot more people would benefit from the way you spoke about mentorship, outcome driven, time bound, right? I think everyone, if they decide to actually write it down, I'm sure they have goals. I think a lot of people are just probably conscious of saying it out loud, right? So I think that makes sense. The other thing I wanted to also touch upon was personal branding, right? In today's world, it's something that is enormously important, right? Uh, Branding, both whether you're an individual, whether you are a startup, whatever, right? It's become like really, really important with the rise of social media. Previously, professional branding was not so important, but now with the rise of LinkedIn, that has also become very important. I have been trying my own journey of improving my personal brand. But to be honest, and I'm sure everyone struggles with, there is a part of you which almost feels a bit um superficial, right? Trying to promote yourself, because there is also this philosophy deep ingrained in us: if you do the work, the world will see. Like, you don't have to go out there and put it on LinkedIn. And to be honest, I have never put it on LinkedIn. I'm promoted because I'm just shy, to be honest, right? Like, just shy. I just feel ashamed to tell everyone that I've been promoted, or I have taken a new job, or I don't know why, right? Now I've started putting out my thoughts on various things which I'm feeling, and I've now started putting out a bit. But I know that it has taken me a journey, and I see a lot of people doing that. But how do you tackle that, right? What, how would you tackle that? Yeah.
Sure. No, I mean, as you correctly pointed out, this is extremely, extremely important, right? And anyone who has done sales would be able to relate to it. So, personal branding is a journey where you actually learn to think about yourself as a product, right? um all these things, when it comes that, okay, why should I go, like, karma should speak for it and I won't go talk about it, all these things, I know exactly what you mean, because I've felt that myself. But when you start thinking about yourself as a product, right? Let's say there is someone who's building a nice handicraft sitting at a remote village. Who's going to buy it? It needs to come out. Somebody needs to speak about it. To reach your consumers, the product needs to reach the consumers for the sale to happen. And for that, branding is essential. And if you ask me if there is a magic to kind of get over this feeling of hesitation, then I have to upset you and say that, you know what, there is none. You just have to. mm, Uh, but this change in mindset to think yourself as a product, so you are not really going and singing your own praises. You are rather you are saying what this product offers, right? Me as a product, this is what I offer, and I'm just reaching my consumers to tell them what I offer. If anyone is interested in buying, they're going to come to me. If they're not, great, no problem. So that change in mindset has definitely helped me to do it more with ease and just being okay with it. Earlier, I also used to feel the same way. Is that okay? Why do I have to go and tell the whole world what I'm doing, right? And that's why I used to be off social media for a really long time. And then I realized that, okay, if you are just going and doing your work in a company, you are just an individual contributor who are doing your job, even then it is important. If you think about changing that job at some point in time, like how the world knows who you are and what you offer. Only when you go to a platform and talk about, okay, we did this fantastic project with machine learning where we did X, Y, and Z. Obviously, the information that you can potentially share on a platform like that, if you go share, at least people know that you are somebody who's working in that space. and opportunities aligned to that would be coming to you. Else, how exactly that happens? So it's the match from the product to consumer. That's the only thing that I would say. And it's absolutely essential. Doing it both in the company and outside the company is equally important.
I think that's very well said, Amrita. Like in terms of considering yourself as a product, right? Because I think the reason we don't do it is because actually the thing that struck a note with me is that we are products for our organizations, right? They don't really care. Not to say like they don't care literally, but I mean like they're okay whether you're married or not, whether you have a kid or not, with whatever gender you have, whatever religion you have. All they care about is what you bring to the table and are you able to deliver what is expected out of you. So you are technically a not, I mean, not to dehumanize it, but you are almost a product, like you said. And yeah, I mean, honestly, that's a very cool way to think about it. That yeah, you are a product, because I have no like I'm in sales. I have no shame in talking about my organization. I can tell you 10 things as to why someone should choose my organization. But if you ask me about me, I don't know. I really don't know. And that's where that imposter syndrome also clicks in, right? And you're like, huh, maybe they will find out that I'm pretty, whatever, right? So, all your insecurities creep in when you talk about yourself. So I think that's a very cool way, because then you can dehumanize yourself almost and just talk about the good things that you do, the outputs that you produce, and the deliverables that you have achieved, or the revenue you have exceeded, and things like that, right? So yeah, I mean, like, to be honest, when you said that, like, it almost like did a click in my head, because I was like, whoa, that's a damn cool way to look at it, right? Like, look at yourself as a product. So I mean, that's a big takeaway. Like, I think in terms of mindset shifts, really nice. Right. I think the other thing I wanted to like mention was, you spoke about resilience earlier, right? And in general, like setbacks, right? And I'm not only talking about setbacks, right? Like I see a lot of women, like, especially when they're getting married or when they have kids, right? I don't know if it is coming from society or is it like a genetic thing or whatever. Like, I feel like it's again like a very women thing, probably also because we are the only gender who can reproduce. They probably, like, they get into a different sort of mind space, right? How do you sort of come back from it? Like, how can you train women to be mothers or be wives or be spouses and still be able to navigate this and come back, and especially if they have taken a gap, right? Like, you and anyways, for maternity leave you end up taking a gap, right? How do you navigate help women navigate that comeback, or even mentally and career wise as well?
Sure. So, yeah, I have done it twice. So, and of course, I have a lot of mentees who I have spoken to when they were going through this transition. So, I would first share my personal experience, right? I think what was super useful for me to have clarity on what I want my life to look like, right? Um, is it going to be in a certain way, right? How would I be spending time? In fact, I got way better at saying no after my son was born, the first kid was born. Um, I talked about ruthless prioritization. This is one thing that we get much better at when we are mothers. We know what to say no to, right? If there is a chai catch up for just chit chat, I'd mostly say no to that. Said, 1 hour, sorry, can't do it. Okay. Um, because we look at the time spent in terms of return on investment. That if
Mm.
I spend this time, what's my ROI on it? So we think about that. So having that clarity is super, super important. Like, how do I want my life to look like when my baby is born? And some Some women choose to take a year break, 2 year break, and that's totally fine. That's their choice, right? They can say, I want to send my kid to school and then only I want to get back to work. Perfect. But how do you stay relevant during this time? That's something you have to be very clear about, and there has to be ongoing steps. You cannot say, what, I want to get started after 3 years, so I will start preparing after 2.5. That does not work. If you really want to get started after 3 years, plan exactly how you want to spend your relevancy related task during this time and give yourself incremental target. Keep an eye out on what's happening in the industry, right? What are the new trends? What is the tools that you need to stay up to date with? If you already working in a certain programming language or something, you want to brush that up. Give yourself some goals. Like in the beginning, you literally first 6 months, you are like a zombie because you're not sleeping in the night or so you can't do much. So first 6 months, forget about it. After that, slowly when you start getting some sleep, you can decide that, I'm going to do this course or I'm going to do complete this, like maybe 1 hour of learning in a week. That's what I say, right? Better to have 3 to 4, but if that's too much, do 1 hour of learning. So being relevant through the time. And third, but definitely not the least, is staying connected with the right set of people. That helps you find the opportunity. It can be in the same company where you are working or in other companies. But keep saying it even before you come back. I remember I used to have conversation with my boss. It's like, I'm coming back in 4 weeks. What do you have for me? I am not going to come and do just that. I want to do this. I want to. So having that conversation on an ongoing basis is also very important. Some people just totally get disconnected, and that makes it very hard to come back. So you prepare for your comeback before you go. So you kind of be again very intentional about it. Tell people. People will tell you, oh, we'll not copy you in emails, like, or we will not give you a call. So decide if you want to call back. Like, that's great. You don't want to call me, but maybe I will call you once every month just to check, right, how
Mhm.
things are going in the organization so that when I'm coming back, I'm already caught up, right? I am not coming back to get to a lot of surprise. So these things have been personally very, very helpful for me. And some of my mentees, I would say, and coaching clients, there are a couple of other things that they have mentioned. One is a little more on the physical side, because pregnancy is a big change, right? We try to simplify it. We say, oh, it's a natural process, it's having, but only women, we know what really happens. So focusing on the fitness as you come back is also very important. And I have seen there are some women who get very tired when they go back to the rhythm of working after having a baby. So preparing from that perspective, food, nutrition, and exercise. And the second thing that they also took a mentor during that phase because it was a transition phase. And you can also look for if there are ways to start slow, like pick up a small assignment. Don't try to hit a promotion the same year because it's going to be hard. So setting those expectations clear in your head is also helpful. So getting a mentor, especially during the actual transition phase, is super, super helpful.
That's well put out, Amrita. I think especially the fact that you said that stay connected and have like at least some idea of what is going on in the organization. You're right. Like will potentially frame up even the people on the outside to look at you from that perspective and not like forget about you and know that okay, she is coming back in this much time. What can we have for her? I think yeah, that's a really cool way to put about it. I think now I just wanted to talk about your community or your tribe, right? You have you're building this tribe, and I think in the time frame that you have, what are the things that you feel extremely proud of, right? As part of this tribe.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing experience, right? And I can't emphasize enough about the importance of a tribe, right? Helping each other, having a supportive group who looks out for each other can be immensely, immensely powerful. At times, you don't even know, and you are just sitting and doing your stuff, and you get a call and say, you know what? You are the best person to come and do this for us. And you'll be like, wow, like somebody was thinking about me when I didn't even reach out. And that's what happens when you have a tribe.
Right.
Uh, so yeah, I'm extremely proud of that. They're super super helpful women who are always looking out for each other, and opportunities you don't have to chase. Sometimes it comes to you when you are in a group like that.
That's really well, Amrita. So I think we are about to end this conversation. Before we end, right, are there any like few things that you would like to tell all the women listeners that, okay, these things are like the basics you can start with on your journey, or any sort of thing, and any message for the listeners as well?
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of important aspects, right? Which is relevant for women, irrespective of the level in their career they are, even if someone is starting versus someone has been there for multiple decades, might be. But um, being confident in your own self, right? Being authentic and being going out all out for your passion is extremely important, and being very intentional about, very open about it, right? This is what I want to do, no matter what that is. And there is no, like, leveling, and leveling will happen. People will say stuff that, oh, she's doing X, or she is selling tea, or she's selling muffins. Does not hurt. Like, yes, that's what I love doing, and I'm going to do that. um so yeah, going all out for that is what I would say. And if I need to summarize it in just two lines, what I would say: be unapologetically you, right? That's the first thing. And make an effort to help other one other woman every week, some way. It's an amazingly powerful thing. Guess what will happen to this world, right? If every woman is happening one other woman in some way every week. Figure out a way, go ahead and do that.
That's extremely powerful, Amrita. Really good chatting with you. I learned a lot. I took away a lot from this conversation, and I'm hoping that every woman, and I mean, not only women, I'm sure like a couple of these things are relevant to men as well, can take away, um, you know, all these points and implement it in their lives, because I think the best part was whatever advices you gave were very practical, right? It is not, because on the surface you hear people talk about be authentic, be true to yourself, like, but what does that mean? How do you implement? So I think all the small things that you spoke about, how to actually imbibe them in your day to day life, I think that would be very helpful even for me and like for anyone who's watching. So it was lovely to have you here, Amrita. And we're looking forward to your book launch. And really thank you again for coming on this podcast.
Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you, Jaslin.